welcome to the Alexa Show. I'm Alexa Servididio, your host, and so excited to be here tonight. Tonight, we have such an incredible show. Joining me is two-time Super Bowl winner, Ray Crockett. Aside from playing the NFL, he is an actor, a producer, and a motivational speaker. Ray, welcome to the Alexa Show.
Thank you. Thank you. How you doing? How are you guys doing today?
Very, very good. Just so excited to have you on. And you have such an exciting career. How did this all get started?
Man, it's really crazy. It's one of those things where all God, to be honest, excuse me, as far as my football career, I started out in high school. I started playing football in high school. My freshman year, I actually got cut. I actually went out for the football team and I was too small. So the coaches would not even give me a helmet and shoulder pads. They basically just told me, just wait till you grow. You know, it's just, they didn't want to get me hurt. So it was one of those things where I said, okay, I'll go out and I'll ride my bike and run and do push-ups and sit-ups. You know, we couldn't afford a gym membership back then. So it was one of those things that just the blessing of God, I got a little bigger, grew a little taller, and kept my speed and quickness. And the next year, I was all district. I was honorable mention all state. So I went from being cut to basically becoming a quote unquote star in basically 1 year.
Wow, impressive. And I think that really speaks about how things can change, with time,
Yes.
with practice. And as we all know, life has its struggles. It has its ups and downs. What motivated you and what helped you keep strong through all these difficult times?
You know, it's one of those things where I just think the way I grew up, growing up, not having a lot, growing up, moving around different house to house, apartment to apartment, I was used to adversity. I was used to letting things just kind of roll off my back, roll off my shoulders. And the one thing I really did, I started to do something else. I said, okay, I may not be big enough to play football at this moment, but I still have a dream and goals and aspiration to go to college. So I became a straight A student. I really got into my books and dug into my books. So it all worked out. I said one way or the other, I was going to get a scholarship to do something. And I ended up getting an academic and athletic scholarship because I was a straight A student as well. So it's one of those things where when one thing doesn't work out for you, you just have to go to the next thing and try to become a dual threat or just try to broaden your horizons.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I always say you can still follow your dream and also branch out and do different things. Because I think so many times people say, this is my dream, this is my passion. I can't study anything else. I can't work at anything else. But you can do multiple things. And I find that really helps you stand out from everybody else.
Exactly.
It also gives you those tools in your tool belt that maybe others don't have.
And you know what? That's what I tell the kids that I mentor now. When I go do my motivational speaking, I tell the kids, do multiple things. Don't get tunnel vision and don't just start to say, I have one vision. I mean, life is about having several visions. And in all honesty, whatever vision you have, it's going to change the older you get anyway. So life is about transitioning. Life is all about being able to do one thing and start another, or do one thing while you're doing another. It's all about being multiply gifted, multiply zoned, and about transition from one thing to the next.
Yes. And it's about having that flexibility, because it's okay to have, an idea of how and what your dream you want it to look like, but you have to be flexible enough, because life is, turns and twists and always a plot twist here and there. So you have to be flexible enough to be able to say, okay, I'm going to start moving in this direction and not be so discouraged. Because so many times people say, oh, it doesn't mean I'm going to make it. And they get discouraged instead of saying, okay, how can I work around this? How can I work through this?
Right. And the first thing, like you said, as far as being discouraged, I always tell people that when you start a vision board or when you start to dream, make sure you add failure to that, because it's going to happen. You're going to fail in something, and you can't be ashamed of it. You can't worry about it. You just have to say, that's part of my progression. That's failure is part of progressing. And I tell people all the time, if you don't fail, then you haven't tried enough. You haven't jumped out enough. You hadn't really pushed yourself to the limits enough. because if you do, there's going to be some goal, some aspiration that you don't hit. That's if you're pushing yourself. If you're safe, you probably would never fail. So when I ask my young kids, when I ask my mentees, I say, have you failed yet? If they tell me no, I say, well, you haven't jumped out far enough. Go in the deep, go to the deep end, get out of the shallow water, go to the deep end. And once you fail, then you know I'm on the right track, because now
Yes.
you're really pushing yourself and you're getting creative at that point.
And in failures, you learned so much. And I know so many people say, why would you say that? Who would want a failure? But you learned so much through failures. And I think
Yes.
you really learn about yourself, and you learn about what makes you you, but finding strengths. And I also have a very strong faith in God. And I think those are those times and those failures, in those dark moments, I really, just sat with it and prayed through it and said, okay, what's next? What else can I do? And that's when the biggest gifts in my life and opportunities came, where I said, wow, I would have never even thought of that if this door didn't close for me.
And that's exactly right. Me going to Baylor University and graduating from Baylor University, it's a Baptist university. I'm very spiritually grounded as well. And if you read all the greats in the Bible, they all failed at something. They all had opposition. They all had something that they had to battle through. They had something that they failed through. I don't care if you go from Job to David to all. I mean, just look at every last one of them. No one in the Bible did everything right. So I tell people all the time, if the great men in the Bible didn't get it all right, then I don't expect to get it all right. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that I've learned the most when it comes to success or failure. When I fail, I learn the most about myself. I learn the most about my opposition. I learn the most about my environment. I learn the most about my heart. When you succeed, it's easy to succeed. It's easy to be happy and succeed. Failure is when you really learn about yourself.
Yes. Well, I think anyone can do success well, but to do
Right.
failure and to be able to sit with it and come out through the other side and say, wow, I really learned something. And then also share your story to
Yes.
inspire someone else is the most empowering feeling to do. And I can almost amaze you know how much you do that to everyone that's watching, because being in the NFL is a dream for everyone. And I know there's so many young athletes watching right now. What advice would you give them?
Oh, I tell them, don't stop dreaming. My real tagline on all of my, when it comes to hashtags and all that, is pray, dream, believe, and work. Don't stop dreaming, don't stop believing, and don't stop working. And you have to pray, but you pray first. That's why I put that first. When I wake up, I start with God. When I go to sleep, I end with God. And I tell them anything is possible with God. So anything in between my day, from me waking up to me going to sleep, I can make it happen. I can make it okay, because I know at the end of the day, I know where my power is coming from, and I know where my next strength is coming from. But I tell people all the time, you don't have a testimony unless you go through some tests. So if you
Yes.
never go through trials and tribulations, you can never speak to anybody, because no one will believe you.
Yes.
So it's the test that those trials and tribulations and those tests, that's what gives you a testimony. And that's what makes people say, okay, I can believe him, I can understand him, and I can follow him. I don't want anybody with me that hadn't been through a trial. I really don't. Because I don't know how you're going to, if you've been through a trial, I know you've been through something, you've been war tested, I know you'll survive. If not, I don't know how you're going to react to it. So I want people, I want fighters, I want warriors in my corner.
Yes, yes, amen. And I think it's so also powerful to be able to know we don't have to look for perfection. We're not in control. We don't have to be figuring everything out. So it's again being flexible, but also being able to sit in those quiet moments, in those moments when maybe nothing is happening that we can actually see, but know that something's happening, and to know that even the small things that we do every day is bringing us
Yeah.
closer and closer to our dream and to our purpose, and to just keep
Yeah.
showing up and not give up.
And that's what it is. That's what faith is. Faith is all about doing when you don't see. Anybody can do something really well and do something hard when you see at the end of the rope, you know what you're going to get. But faith is all about, I don't know. Like with me, when I got cut my freshman year, I rode my bike miles and miles and miles. I did a number of push-ups, a number of sit-ups, a number of pull-ups with no idea that I would ever even have another chance to play. But I had faith. So I just kept working, even though I didn't see an opportunity. I kept working and I ended up getting an opportunity. So that's what I would tell people. Even if you don't see the opportunity, if you believe it, if it's in your heart, then have faith. Work, 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 and believe when you see nothing.
Absolutely. Now, in the TV series, 30 Days, you spent one whole month in a wheelchair. What was that experience like? What was it for you to be able to do that for 1 month, which must have been so trying?
Oh, it was difficult. The biggest thing was this. When I went to Detroit, my best friend who got drafted with me the same year, he was actually paralyzed. He got paralyzed on the field my second year. And it was years after that, probably 4 or 5 years, that I saw his struggle. I saw his struggle getting in and out of the bed. I saw his struggle getting dressed. I saw his struggle with everyday life. And then I really saw his struggle with life outside of his house. He had his house set up and everything was good. But when he tried to go to restaurants, grocery stores, things of that nature, it was difficult because no one really builds something for the handicap. It's really, we're building it for people who can get there. Oh, there's the handicap stuff over there. And I never really noticed it until I saw my friend struggle. So that's why I did 30 days. And that's why I did it in a wheelchair, because I was like, for me to draw attention to me being an able-bodied person, I want to show how difficult it is for people who are paralyzed, who are in wheelchairs and who can't walk, how difficult it is to get dressed, how difficult it is on a day-to-day basis, and then also how difficult it is outside in the real world. So that was really the reason why I did it.
I mean, to really take that time and walk in someone else's shoes, I think you really understand and also appreciate the small things we do take for granted. Walking into the supermarket, being able to pick which restaurant we want to go to and get in there with no problem.
Right. And that was the hardest thing. And I mean, me being an able-bodied person, there were some restaurants and some grocery stores that I went to, and I'm strong, and I mean, I was in tip-top shape at the time, and I could barely get into those places. So imagine if I was really handicapped. I was like, they wouldn't have a chance in heck to get in here with their strength level, with them not being able to use their legs or their arms or whatever the case may be. I was acting as if I couldn't, but I could, and I still couldn't get in those places. So it really changed the way some grocery stores, some restaurants, to be honest, I heard from the real estate commissioner, I heard that I got some laws changed because there were like some places where the handicap parking was 30 meters from the door. And I'm like, it would take them an hour to get to the door, you know? So they changed where you have to put handicap parking. They changed how steep the runway can be. A lot of stuff was changed because of that 30 days. So I was very proud of that moment, not knowing it would happen. Like, that's one of those things where, like you said, you just do it. You don't see what's going to happen. You just do it with faith that it's going to change something. And it did. It ended up changing some laws for some of these, builders, how they build their stores and how they build their next operations.
And just so incredible because it touched and helped so many different lives on such a large basis that they're able to do more and feel like they can have their independence back.
Yes. And that was a big thing. And like I said, the community it was just so touching for me going to the hospitals and watching some of the handicapped people get dressed and do things and just listening to them just say that they appreciated me doing it. And they was like, man, you're really courageous. And I was like, no, you guys are courageous. I'm acting. You guys are courageous. So it really opened up my eyes. And I think it opened up the world too, that watched that 30 days. And if you didn't watch it, you can still go back and watch it online. And it was powerful. It really was.
Yeah, that's definitely life-changing. Now,
Yes.
You're also a grandfather. How do you balance work and family life?
That's tough. I mean, it's fun though, to be honest. It's fun. That's the one good thing about being a grandfather is that you get to take the kids home. so, but so that's the funnest part of it. I love them when I have them, and I love it when I drop them off.
Yes,
So,
my
but
mom
it's
feels
cool
the
though.
same way about, yes, here you go.
Yes, but and that's the best part about it is that it's really a blessing because I do so much when it comes to work with my restaurants and TV shows and all the stuff that I do. When I'm with my grandkids, I get to be pawpaw, and it's like it's the most rewarding thing in the world because with pawpaw, there's no worries. I have no worries there. I'm not worried about what the bottom line is. I'm not worried about what I look like. I'm not worried about how I feel. I'm just worried about them smiling. Those two girls. So it's really nice, and it's really a great balance in that because it really takes a lot of pressure off of me.
Yes. And I think it really puts life in perspective when you see these young children, these kids, and just the innocence, but also how smart they are and how curious and just their viewpoint on how they look at life is just, it really makes you take a step back and say, wow, life is really a gift.
Yeah, especially with what we're going through with all the social injustices and everything that this world is going through. You see those kids, it's all about love. It's all about happiness. It's all about smiling. And that's the biggest thing is that if we would look at life the way kids look at life, this world would be a better place.
Yes, I agree. I definitely agree. And you talk about a lot about growth and learning. What are some of the major pillars that you have found have really worked for you that my viewers can take and incorporate in their own journey?
I mean, it's really like I said, don't be afraid to try anything. Don't be afraid to get out there and fail. Don't be, just in general, don't be afraid. Most people are afraid. Oh, I wonder how I'm going to look. I wonder how they're going to perceive me. I want perception and all that stuff. Don't worry about it. If you attack things with the right mindset, with a courageous heart and full of love, you're going to be fine. Things are going to work out for you in the best way. I tell people just don't go out being afraid to do anything and don't worry about what someone else thinks. Live your life. Everybody's on their individual journey. And that's what it says in the Bible. God made all us different. And I tell people the two most dangerous seas in the world is compete and compare. When you start
Yes,
competing and you start comparing, your life is going to be miserable because you're never going to reach to the top and you're never going to live up to the next person. But if you stay one within yourself and you stay on your journey and you can look continually just improve yourself, that's where life is fun.
absolutely. And we're at the end of the show, and I just wanted to thank you again so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure and honor to speak with you and also hear your wonderful advice and testimony. Just inspired myself, and I know many of my viewers.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And once again, I enjoy what I'm doing now. People always tell me about, you reached the pinnacle of your life, winning 2 Super Bowls, playing in the NFL. And I tell people all the time, not just with my life, but with your life. Don't ever think that the good old days are behind you. The good old days
Mhm.
are always in front of you.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Please always send in any questions to info@askalexatherapy.com. Everybody have a good night and God
Thank you
bless.
so much. Thank you.